So I'm here today with Kevin George. He's a former professional footballer turned psychologist and author. Kevin now works with top level athletes, sports teams, and he's recently released a best-selling book called Soccology. It analyses how multiple factors can decide the outcome of performance from today's footballing elite. So hi Kevin, thanks a lot for coming. Looking forward to hearing more about that later. But tell me, just to get us going, describe your career to me in under 60 seconds.
Yeah, sure. Started off as a young pro footballer. I was at West Ham and then Charlton. And then after football, I went into studying around psychotherapy and creating a human performance program. So that's helping people in different spaces, education, prisons and professional football. And then that led on to me creating, or should I say writing, a book called Soccology in June 2018. Became an Amazon #1 bestseller. And now it's just been acquired by publishers. So now I've given the rights over for it to be published across the globe.
Tell me, what would you say the best decision you've made is?
It's the decision that I repeatedly make, which is not to settle. I was in school and the teachers were saying, pick your subjects because this is, going to be linked to what you do in your future. And I was thinking, I ain't doing no 9 to 5. So I didn't settle and I hustled. And I say I hustled my way into football because I lied. I researched where clubs trained. I literally lied and said I got scouted. I was literally just saying, this is the life that's kind of mapped out for me, which everybody else has. I'm not settling for that.
Well, you lied to the football clubs?
Yeah, so I said I got scouted and I didn't, and I made it happen. I got myself in. I hustled my way in and I worked hard to the level that before I was a professional player, I was fitter than the guys who were at professional teams.
I mean, I was going to say, I assume that whilst you're faking it till you make it, in sports or soccer, you've still got to have that underlying ability and skill set. I mean, I think I'll probably struggle to rock up myself and tell them that I recently been scouted, but yeah. I could have been body doubling for Ronaldo in my younger days too.
But then saying that, one of my friends, it's funny, I take it as a compliment. He goes, "You used to be rubbish." That's what he said about me. And I take it as a compliment because I wanted it so bad that I made myself good. Like, I wanted to be a footballer. Nothing, it was non-negotiable. So going back to what you were saying about, the word, it's almost like never settling. And when I came out of football, okay, I did the TV stuff. It was all right. People love it because of the attention. I didn't care about that. It was like, okay, I'm just doing it, making money until I found my next passion. My next passion was doing behaviour therapy, setting up the company in schools, doing behaviour therapy. Again, not settling. I got 3 A to C's in school. Who am I to set up behaviour therapy in schools and advise teachers how to teach and head teachers how to run their school? And then the same thing now with Soccology, me writing a book and
but just on that, so I guess I can understand a bit more, and the guys watching this can understand too. Just tell us a bit more about your existing business now. Not the book, but your business, how you get into schools or prisons, what it does, and also it'd be great to hear, I guess, as well how not settling applies to that now. What are your goals? What are your next steps?
Okay, well, before I even talk about the business, I found that for me to give everything and to give 100%, it has to be something I'm passionate about. So my work is human performance. I always find it strange that in school I failed. I saw that I failed, but actually school failed me. And I see the same patterns happening all the time. So I'm thinking, well, hold on a minute. This needs to change. So I do a lot of research around learning styles and motivation, tactics, and also behaviour in school, why kids are misbehaving. And also how teachers are failing. So I go in and I have strategies. In prisons, I look at it, because I grew up around a lot of guys who were selling drugs, got killed or killing people. I'm looking at what was behind that. What were the things? And yes, I've studied psychotherapy and I see that, but actually there's the other elements as well. So when I'm working in the prisons or working in the alternative provision schools that pretty much set kids up to go prison, I'm delivering strategies, whether it be through teaching, so working with the staff, also just kind of raising self-esteem in different ways. It could be traditional therapy, it could be stuff around helping them set up businesses, because those are different confidence boosters in different ways. And in the football clubs, I do those as well, but I also do the other stuff around banter. That is massive in football, but also for good reasons, but also for crippling reasons too. And I can go on, but it's all around the performance of people in different spaces. I'm supposed to be going to one of the biggest phone companies in the country, but I can't say yet, obviously. But
choice of 3.
But I'm supposed to be going there to do professional development, and they want me to do some programs around getting out of your comfort zone. So it's about helping people perform at their best, personally and professionally. That's what I do.
So one of the questions I always like to ask people is what's one of the scariest moments in your life? I mean, obviously we talk about getting out of your comfort zone. Any stories for us?
I'm always scared, and I love it. For me, if it doesn't scare me, it's just pointless. It's a waste of time. Like I said to you before, I lied. I was going to football clubs and lying. Being a kid, going to West Ham from South London, going all the way to Chadwell Heath, not knowing that one, my lie is going to be convincing, and two, they might send me packing. I'm pooing myself. But at the end of the day, look what I achieved from it. You know, going into schools, advising schools on how to run. And I said, I had 3 A to C's, and I'm doing that. So it was always that step. And before I did that, my ex-girlfriend, funny enough, her mum was a teacher. And I literally studied files like that, LCP files, which have lesson plans in it. Because I thought, okay, I know how to engage. I know how to make things fun, but I don't know structure. And I was scared, but I've studied it. And again, I grew a business from it. So I'm always scared, and I will always continue to be scared.
But as you say, you're always going to continue to be scared. But I was going to ask you. I mean, you're doing that. You know, I guess doing those lies and that hustle and stuff time and again. Do you not find it easier next time? I mean, do you still have that same level of scaredness as the first time, or is it just because you're pushing the boundaries of how much you can take the piss?
You don't get used to it, because I feel like if it doesn't scare me, so if it's something that I'm kind of used to, I'm not going to go to it, you know. Even just going back to me saying I set up the business in schools, I got too comfortable and I didn't like that. It didn't challenge me enough. So if I look at something new and I think, okay, yeah, you know, it scares me a bit, it's a bit challenging, I'm not going to do it because it's not going to motivate me. I need something big. And I think I've always had it, but one thing with professional football, what it does is it makes you an animal for competition. It makes you want to be a winner. It makes you want to step up for that challenge. You know, it's like players always wanted to play for the top teams and wanting to win. In a way, off the pitch, I'm playing football still.
Well, tell me, in football, out of interest, how much what pushes you on more, and not you specifically, but you know, like footballers in general? Is it your personal career, you know, wanting to get to that next level, you know, that bigger paying contract in the next team, or how much as well does the kind of team, you know, kind of pressure or camaraderie come into it? That, you know, if you have a shit game, you know, you get in the change room and you get a beating from your pals, or.
I mean, everyone's different. I think yes, money matters. You know, and especially in England, for some reason, it's like we see it as a bad thing, but money's huge. But players just want to connect with the sport of football. It's like being in the playground again. And this is why sometimes you get players who play for clubs that may not be as ambitious as the ones that are interested in them. But the way that the club has, or the manager's values and beliefs align with theirs, they just stick with it. Because that's what it's about. It's what football does. It's why the fans go crazy. It's why you've got guys playing Sunday League in the rain. It's about that connection with the sport. And professional athletes are exactly the same. You know, I'm an Arsenal fan. There's loads of guys who had, you know, they eventually left anyway. But the only reason why they stayed for as long as they did, they had a manager who played the way that connected with their values and beliefs. And that's key.
Cool. So tell me, best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Can I give you two?
Of course you can. Okay,
so one, Eddie Ouds, he was a centre-back at Charlton at the time. He said, whenever football gets you down, remember you finish at 1 o'clock. He goes, that's the best job in the world. Two was one of my mentors, Steve Payne. He says, trust your unconscious. So those are the two best ones.
Oh, cool. And tell me, future plans?
Looking to do a documentary in 2019. So I've done the book.
Is this a documentary off the back of the book?
Yeah. I want to bring the book to life. Not everybody reads. And
actually, just tell us a bit more about the book.
Okay, so the book is the psycho and emotional elements of football, and it's about educating people in football. So I go to all the Premier League teams. I do work from under 10 all the way up, staff and parents. I find myself always repeating myself, and also not even just in the case of people that you'd think, as I said, the young ones, but also the old ones. Players who have played in the Premier League for many years. I didn't make any appearances in the Premier League. Or people who are seen as legends in the game that don't really know about the game. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do in-depth research and I'm going to pull on the stories of footballers across generations. So I've done research in terms of, I've got people to contribute like Fabian Delph, Gail Clichy, Quinton Fortune, Wesley Hoyt, Bart Ramselaar. So these are guys from all around the world. And I've got previous generations like Gary Stevens, who played for England and Spurs. I've got the next generation who play like at Man United, Italian internationals. So what I wanted to do is give you a rounded view of the game, but then move to the side and show you actually, these are humans. So when we look at football, I'm looking at the intellect of a player, how you have to be intelligent to be a footballer. You know, you have to be, and I break that down. And then I look at the other side, the mental health. There's massive problems in football around mental health, around mental illness. But also, there are players who are exercising well-being to a very high standard. You've got Leo McKenzie in the book talking about trying to commit suicide. You've got Gail Clichy talking about meditation and living wellness. And that's a pet peeve of mine, because I feel that when we talk about mental health, we always talk about illness. And we're doing a miseducation across the world, especially in this country. You know, it's always speak out. If you've got a problem, you hear anxiety, depression. And I feel that we're not educating people on mental health. So that was massive for me. And then the chapter that I was attached to the most was around how football targets vulnerable areas or vulnerable people, which is great because it gives them a lifestyle that they might not have. But at the same time, they don't look after them. And so in that same chapter, you've got players who have been in gangs, who speak about where they've come from. And I also just highlight that there's no care for them, there's no understanding. So we want that bravery and that courage. Like when you look at the top footballers, Rooney, street footballer, Van Persie, street footballer, he was knocking players out on the pitch at Feyenoord. And thankfully they grew up and grew out of it and self-educated and maybe had support. But when we look at some of the others, they needed more guidance. They never got it in football clubs because football's way of managing it was basically, pull your socks up, you're lucky to be here, I'm going to give you one more chance. And I always thought that's not the right way to do it, because if you fail, imagine this, if you keep failing in your life, why would I give you another chance? Because you've already showed me that you are struggling. You know, this is a relationship. So if I offer you a contract, we're doing this together. But in football, for some reason, they still think, oh, I'm going to give you a chance, and then I'm going to throw it in your face if it doesn't work out. So I did loads of research, not only in football, but I actually drew on Venus and Serena Williams and Mike Tyson's story, because his is the perfect story for attachment, and how actually if you give someone that place of safety, you can propel them to anything, even being world champion like him. And then, sorry.
I was going to just say, tell me, how hard did you find it to get the involvement with the players, and you know, once you got the involvement to get them to open up and talk honestly? I mean, obviously you've got the football background, the football connection, but you know, you got some big names in there. You know, were these people that you knew personally, or was it quite a struggle to get people's engagement?
It was a bit of both, but funnily enough, the players I didn't know were the ones who stepped forward more. I think the ones who I knew, they probably think, oh yeah, it's just Kev, he's doing a book. They probably knew I was doing the book, but they didn't realise it was going to be as big. And so some of them, a lot of them aren't even in the book. And then sometimes it's connection. So I know someone and they've done the connection for me. I'm trying to think of how that's worked out. But yeah, and most of them is players I didn't know. And sometimes it's people I've just reached out to. So I've got Professor Jocelyn Faubert, who created something called NeuroTracker, which develops decision making, which is the most important skill in football. And I didn't know Prof before, but I reached out to him, to his people, and now we're good friends and we're collaborating on different projects.
Cool. So I got a question, but I always like to ask people if I was to give you a loan or an investment, or you know, fund a new business for you that has to be in a different sector to what you're already doing now. Yeah. You know, what would that be? I mean, obviously you've got a very clear plans. You know, very grown business already. But if you had to pack it all in today and start something fresh tomorrow, how are we going to make our millions together?
That's tough. I can't. Do you know what? I can't do something I'm not passionate about. So obviously, my work is about.
But tell me, because you know, this is something I always like to talk about with people as well. I mean, look, unquestionably, it's so much easier to go to work in the morning if you're working on a job or a project that you're passionate about. But can you get yourself passionate just for the sheer task of making money? You've got a wife, you've got a family, etc. You need to put food on the table. You're not passionate about that specific job or project. Yeah. Can you not fire yourself up to earn the money?
No, but I wish I was. For me, it would always be around helping people. So everything I've done after push football and the TV stuff aside, everything, working in the prison, working in the football clubs, working in education. And in a way, I've got an extra attachment to it because education failed me. I feel that football failed me. I feel that society's failed. Luckily, I had a good family unit. So when I do the stuff around the prisons, that's not really to do with me, but the people I grew up around. Like before I went to work in prison, I knew I'd see someone that I knew in there. And I did. And actually in my class, someone came in. A former footballer came in, funnily enough, at my club. That's madness. So it's like my heart has to be attached to it because money's not enough of a motivator for me, because I'll be there and I won't put everything in, and I've got too much pride for my work. I've achieved a lot, and it's like I don't want to be showing off and telling people, but I have so much pride because in any area, for example, in school, I say I had 3 A to C's when I left secondary school. I did work in a school where I got outstanding by Ofsted. The school failed, the qualified teachers failed, I got outstanding. But that's because I'm willing to put the work in regardless. Before the inspection even happens, I'm always making sure I operate at a high level. But if I'm doing something my heart's not in, then I'm not going to really perform to my best, and then I've just got pride, I can't do it. But I wish I had a bit more of a balance and could be motivated more for money. But I still want more, I still want loads of money though.
So tell me, how would you like to be remembered? And quite more specifically, if that was to be written on your tombstone, you've got to engrave your own tombstone, what's it going to say?
Someone who always did what's right even when it was wrong. Yeah.
Cool. I like it. Well, listen, Kevin, it's been great having you here. Thanks a lot. Fantastic stories. I'm sure the guys at home, love to hear about the sport, the book, and Soccology. Make sure you go and get it. It's going to be a next bestseller.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, Kevin.
Pleasure. Nice.